Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video I wanted to talk a bit about this, until recently, small upstart airline called Qatar Airways. That's Qatar Airways. Many people just get on the flights and just fly off to the other side of the world, not really thinking about the history behind this fascinating airline. Qatar Airways is one of the world's youngest but most ambitious airlines, as you'll see from the marketing campaigns, the Qsuite, the constant refreshing of aircraft. And I don't think anyone would disagree with me when I say that Qatar Airways has transformed air travel over the past 3 decades, from its modest beginnings as a really small regional airline with just one aircraft to becoming a global leader in world aviation and setting the standard for luxury in the skies. Qatar Airways has continually set new standards for luxury, innovation and connectivity, but most people don't know how it actually got here. How did the government of Qatar play a key role in transforming both the airline and the small country at the edge of the Gulf into a global aviation hub? So in today's video we're diving into the fascinating history of Qatar Airways, from its early formation to its status as one of the world's best 5-star airlines and a leader in air travel.
Qatar Airways, going places together.
So our story begins in 1993. Qatar, a small but rapidly growing nation at the time, was looking to establish itself on the global stage. The government realised that aviation would be critical to connecting Qatar to the world, and the world would go through Qatar, and they could generate revenue and influence through that. Qatar Airways was born the same year, 1993, as a small regional airline with just a handful of routes and one aircraft. In these early days, the airline's operations were really modest, but it wasn't long before the government of Qatar saw the immense potential that aviation had to offer to its country, not only for national development and wealth generation, but also for positioning Qatar as a global transition hub, with flights from all over the world transiting through Qatar, and today transiting through Hamad Airport, one of the world's best airports, to connect the world, I guess. In 1997, Qatar Airways underwent a significant transformation. The government of Qatar took full control of the airline, which had previously been set up by a small group of private investors, and the government had a bold vision to make Qatar Airways a key part of the country's strategy to diversify its economy beyond the oil and gas that had started to make the country wealthy. The airline was then branded with the iconic oryx logo, so the deer on the back of the Qatar aircraft is an oryx, a native species of deer to Qatar and the Gulf region. And in Gulf culture and history, the oryx symbolised elegance and strength, and it is capable of leaping. So the government of Qatar used that logo as symbolism of Qatar leaping around the world with its aircraft and spreading influence and culture and Qatari wealth around the world. And this started the airline onto its journey to become a global player in the, at the time, well-established global aviation market. The long known airlines like BA, American Airlines, Gulf Air, Cathay Pacific, Qantas had been around for decades before Qatar even appeared on the world stage, but the government of Qatar was not going to rest on its laurels. It knew it could fight back against these established airlines. So the government support for Qatar Airways was essential. They positioned the airline not only as their national carrier, but also as a symbol of the country to the world. Leading this charge was a man. He wasn't a shy man. He was very outspoken, and he continued to be outspoken for his 16-year career. CEO Akbar al-Bakr, who took over in '97. Al-Bakr had the full backing of the Qatari government, and he came into the airline with a clear goal: to make Qatar Airways not just one of the best, the best airline in the world. And he had a lot of government finances and people behind him to help him in that goal. Al-Bakr's leadership would prove pivotal in what came next. This was Qatar Airways' rapid expansion and rise to global prominence as the most influential five-star airline, with a vast number of aircraft and lots of subsidiary companies, including the National Airport of Qatar, a private jet leasing company, and a catering company based now at Hamad Airport in Doha. While Qatar Airways was growing, it was part of a much larger vision by the Qatari government. Qatar wanted to establish itself as a global transit hub, strategically located between Asia, Europe, Africa, eventually Australasia and the Americas too, and who knows, maybe Antarctica soon. To achieve this, the government invested significant sums of money, many billions of dollars, into both aviation infrastructure in Qatar and into the airline itself that would bring the passengers through Doha's airport. The crown jewel in this development and funding strategy by the government was the construction of Hamad International Airport. If you watch my previous videos, you'll have had a glimpse of what life in the airport is like outside of the lounges, but the Al Safwa lounge, I think, shows you the type of people that Hamad Airport is trying to attract: the wealthy business passengers with money to spare. Hamad International Airport opened its doors officially in 2014. The Qatari government poured over $15 billion, that's billion dollars, into this state-of-the-art facility. They planned for the future. They built the airport so that it could handle tens of millions of passengers every year. Its strategic location made Doha a key stopover for travellers flying between continents, and Qatar Airways' rapidly expanding network connecting the whole world, the key centres of industry and commerce and population, the key places of population growth like China and India and South America, and the future cities of the world like Neom in Saudi Arabia, the Qatar Airways was perfectly positioned to capitalise on this at almost the centre of the globe. It's almost the same distance from one side of Australia to the bottom of South America from Doha. So the airline and the government knew that they had to capitalise on this location. Otherwise, regional airports like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, to some extent Muscat, and Bahrain, Manama airport were going to take the money and take the passengers with their own airlines backed by their own governments. The results, I think, of this investment speak for themselves. Today, Hamad International Airport is one of the most important airports and airline hubs in the world. And Qatar Airways operates more than 160 destinations across 6 continents, using one of the youngest fleets in aviation industry. And this is thanks to the vast sums of oil and gas reserves that Qatar has, that the government can pump funds in when the airline needs more money. But I think it's important not to just view Qatar Airways and Hamad Airport as one entity that stands alone. Qatar Airways and the management of Al Bakr and his management people weren't just focused on expanding the route network. They also wanted to make strategic investments through Qatar Airways Holding Fund in other airlines around the world. These investments, Al Bakr and the Qatari government knew, would strengthen the global influence of Qatar and the airline and connectivity around the world to places that in 1997 nobody would have thought Qatar would be flying to. The deepest parts of Africa, rural by Chinese standards, but rural towns and cities in China, the very far south of the world in New Zealand, South America, and even Montreal in Canada. Since this initiative to buy stakes in airlines was started, Qatar Airways has developed a portfolio of significant stakes in several major airlines. Most notable of these are a 25% stake in International Airlines Group, IAG, which is the parent company of British Airways and Iberia, these 2 legacy carriers that Qatar Airways knew it had to compete with. One way to compete with them is to buy them. And you get landing slots and access to IT and everything that comes with buying a legacy carrier, and reputation, of course. They then bought a 10% stake in LATAM Airlines Group, one of the largest carriers in Latin America, securing Qatar Airways access to the South American market. They then bought a 10% stake in Cathay Pacific, one of the world's oldest airlines and the most prestigious airline in that part of Asia. These acquisitions allowed Qatar Airways to expand its reach globally, providing seamless connectivity for passengers and ensuring that the airline remains competitive on an increasingly competitive global stage when you've got the likes of Emirates, Etihad, China Southern, China Eastern, JetBlue, you name it. You've got all of these either new or established carriers that are having a lot of investment pumped into them that are now competing with Qatar. And it knows that it has to buy stakes in them to compete with them. In addition to its investments, Qatar Airways began aggressively expanding into new markets when it started to buy access to these countries, particularly across Africa and South America. So you'll find that Qatar Airways is starting to invest more in its routes to South America, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, and in Africa. So you've got a diversified route network. It's one of the only airlines to have such a comprehensive global network where you can fly from Sao Paulo to Doha, then down to Johannesburg, or Johannesburg, Doha, Lagos, or Oslo, Doha, Auckland. I think Qatar Airways route network is going to continue to grow. You're going to be able to fly from everywhere in the world through Doha to everywhere else in the world pretty soon. Qatar shows no sign of slowing down. And this aggressive expansion of routes has helped the airline to gain a foothold in regions traditionally dominated by legacy carriers. So we've talked about British Airways in Europe and Iberia and Lufthansa. We've talked about Cathay and JAL and ANA in Asia, Qantas and Air New Zealand in Oceania, and in Africa, definitely South African Airways. Qatar is now competing with them and beating them at their own game through catering, new aircraft, friendly, well-trained staff, state-of-the-art infrastructure and IT, and a well-connected crew and staff both for the airline and at Hamad Airport, who can accommodate these people from all over the world, different languages, cultural expectations, culinary expectations, and expectations for what luxury means. And Qatar Airways really does deliver on luxury. I think it's important though to remember that Qatar Airways' rapid expansion hasn't been without its challenges. In 2017, the airline faced one of its toughest tests when a political blockade was imposed by several neighbouring countries in the Gulf, cutting Qatar Airways off from key trade and investment routes across Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain and Egypt. This could have been disastrous for any country, let alone an airline owned by the government. But Qatar Airways managed to turn this challenge into an opportunity in only the way that Qatar could do this. In response to the blockade, the airline opened 20 new routes. It focused on markets in Europe, Asia and Africa. Despite the blockade, Qatar Airways grew stronger, showing resilience and adaptability. It quickly became a symbol of national pride for the Qatari population, and it continued to be supported by the Qatari government to make sure it overcame one of the country's most difficult periods in modern history. So, where are we today? Where is Qatar Airways in 2024? Today it operates one of the world's youngest and most advanced fleets of aircraft. It's got over 250. It includes Airbus A350s, the most up-to-date, state-of-the-art aircraft capable of flying to the other side of the world from Doha. It's got the Boeing 787 Dreamliners, known for their fuel efficiency and passenger comfort. And it's also got a fleet of A321s that are flying regional and less dense routes across Africa and Central Asia and India. And financially, the airline reported more than £14 billion in revenue. It's about $16–17 billion for the fiscal year 23-24, and it carried more than 18 million passengers in 2023 alone across its global network. One of the most innovative developments of Qatar is the Qsuite, which redefined business class travel in 2017 when it was launched on its first aircraft. The Qsuite, as you'll see in an earlier video if you watch that, where I show you around the Qsuite and tell you what it's like to fly in, it offers customizable private suites, and in the center of those Qsuite aircraft, it's the first ever double bed in the skies, as well as privacy panels that you can pull across to create your own cabin. It has allowed Qatar Airways to earn numerous awards, including several Skytrax World Best Business Class awards. And it's also made regional rivals like Emirates and Etihad and Oman Air and the legacy carriers BA, Lufthansa, you name it, sit up and think, oh, we need to compete with Qatar, we need to invest in new innovative first class and business class products to attract the wealthy clientele that are now flying with Qatar. But the luxury doesn't stop in the air. I've already discussed at Hamad International Airport there are luxury lounges, and these are the finest in the world. You've got the Al Marjan Business Lounge and the Al Marjan Business Lounge South in Doha's airport for business class passengers. The original Al Marjan Lounge spans over 10,000 square meters and offers several fine dining restaurants, private workspaces and spa facilities. And if you've watched the previous video about flying first class in Qatar, you'll have seen my tour of the Al Safwa First Class Lounge, a sanctuary of luxury designed to resemble a 5-star hotel, and I'd say it's better than many 5-star hotels, with private rooms, a spa, a la carte dining, lots of seating to choose from, a bar with on-demand alcohol and soft drinks that ensures a seamless luxury experience from the moment passengers step into the airport through to taking the private transfer bus with the leather armchairs directly to the boarding gate or the boarding steps of aircraft into the first class seats on board. Qatar Airways has come a long way since its very, very humble beginnings in 1993. It's supported by the vision and investment of the Qatari government and the vast wealth of the country, and it's grown into one of the world's leading airlines, renowned for innovation, luxury, resilience to world shocks and market shocks. And as it looks to the future with new technologies, new sustainability efforts, new aircraft, and a new Qsuite and first class coming soon, it is surely going to continue to soar higher, cementing its place as the world's premier 5-star airline. So thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, there's going to be more coming about different airlines. Please like, subscribe, share this video, and there's more to come. Stay tuned, and let's see where I end up next. Thanks everyone, thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this. Bye.